his ducks, his ducks were out, but he was still alive.
By Jackson County Sheriff's Captain Nathan Sickler shows the day he searched Susan Monica's property and found something terrifying.
He emptied the gun in his own head.
Welcome, the X.Stories channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and... On a cold winter morning in 2014, a police team raided a remote farm in Oregon. They were not looking for a killer, just a missing man named Robert Hainin. But what they found beneath the soil and among the pigsties changed the course of the investigation, leaving the officers in a shock never forgotten to this day. A mutilated body, not eaten by nature, but by something else, something alive, something hungry. Who is Susan Moniska? And why is her name linked to one of the most terrifying crimes in the history of the local police? The answer is worse than you expect. Robert Hainin, a man in his 60s, father of 5, once worked in construction, then lived a free-roaming life after his divorce in 2003. He sold his house, bought an old RV and a car, and began traveling through rural areas, enjoying nature and picking up temporary work here and there. He had no enemies, no addictions, just a simple man who chose solitude over chaos. In mid-2013, he found a strange ad on a board in a small town called Medford. A woman named Susan Moniska was offering a simple job. "I need help with farm work. I can't pay much, but I offer land and housing." It was the perfect offer for Robert, so he called her, and within days, he was living on her land and working for her. For several months, his children would hear from him occasionally, scattered phone calls. But as autumn approached, all communication suddenly stopped. They called, they sent messages, no answer. Until one day in January 2014, when 2 of his sons decided to go to Susan's farm themselves. That's when the questions began to multiply. They found the RV right where it had always been. They found his bicycle, his leather jacket, and all his tools, the ones he never left behind. And they found something else, his dog. How could a man just vanish like that, without taking anything, without telling anyone? His eldest son, Mark, was furious. He confronted Susan. "Where is my father? He was working with you." She replied calmly, "I haven't seen him in months. I thought he left." The sons alerted the police. An investigation began. Detectives found no trace of Robert, but they did notice something in his records. His social assistance card, the one he used to buy food, had been used 2 months after he vanished, at a Walmart store. They pulled the security footage. What showed up on the video wasn't Robert. It was Susan. She was the one using the card. Her explanation? "He gave it to me before he left. Told me to buy food for his dog." But the police didn't believe her. On January 10th, a full search warrant was issued for Susan Moniska's farm. But the police didn't believe her. On January 10th, a full search warrant was issued for Susan Moniska's farm. At dawn, dozens of officers and investigators arrived and began combing the property. The scene inside Susan's farm felt like walking through a living nightmare. Piles of junk, rusty barrels, broken tools, shattered glass, and a smell. A strange, heavy stench of rot. In the eastern corner of the property, near the barn, one officer noticed a torn black bag, partially buried under the dirt. And just a few steps away, there was a human leg. Human, stripped of skin. It was clear this wasn't the work of a wild predator, but of something domesticated, something that ate without thought. Additional units were called in. Spotlights were turned toward the barn. Susan was detained. She didn't resist. She sat on an old wooden chair, chewing mint gum, calmly watching them. She said quietly, "Oh, you found it? I figured this would happen one day." "You found it?" That's what she said, as if talking about a bag of trash, not the remains of a man. During the interrogation, the story began to fall apart, and then rebuild itself in a far more horrifying way. Susan claimed Robert changed after receiving a phone call from one of his sons. He started drinking, yelling, crying, talking to himself, punching walls, she said. One night, she found him lying in front of the pig barn, bleeding, after what she described as a drunken rage and collapse. He was alive, barely. She said, "I couldn't help him. I couldn't let him suffer. I shot him. I ended his pain." Then, she dragged his body, stripped off his clothes, and fed him to her pigs. And she let them eat him, slowly, over several days. Why didn't she call the police? "I was afraid for my pigs," she said. "They would have come and killed them for eating a man." Right, she was afraid for the pigs, more than for people. The lead investigator, Thomas Evers, felt this wasn't the first time. He asked her directly, "Are there more bodies on your property, Susan?" She went silent. Then she asked for a piece of paper and drew a layout of the barn. She marked a red X near the eastern pen and said, "There, you'll find something else." When officers began digging at the spot Susan marked on the map, they weren't sure what they would find. But after a few hours of removing the topsoil, human bone remains appeared. 2 skulls, one with a clear bullet hole and the other crushed, as if hit by something heavy. Susan said, "I didn't want to talk, but since you know, let me explain everything." She sighed and began telling another story that happened a year before Robert. His name was Steve Dalasino, a single man in his 50s who lived in a trailer near Susan's land and helped with construction and animal care. According to her, he was kind, liked organizing the barns, cleaning the land, and sitting at sunset, smoking a single cigarette. But one day, she discovered 2 of her guns were missing. She searched and found them in Steve's toolbox. She confronted him. "Why did you steal from me?" He told her, "I didn't steal, just borrowed. I was going to return them." The argument escalated, and their shouting filled the farm. Suddenly, Susan pulled a gun from her pocket and fired. The shot was not fatal, but wounded Steve's head. Was it self-defense? Or premeditated? Susan said she was scared and ran, but Steve crawled after her, bleeding and screaming. She reached the barn, found a hunting rifle, and shot him again, right in front of the pig pen. His body fell inside the pen. Then she sat watching as he was slowly dragged toward her pigs. She did nothing. Just left him there to become food for 7 pigs. She said, "Sometimes I kill a pig when it suffers, just to ease its pain." With Steve, it was the same. But was Steve suffering? Or just angry? Why didn't she ask for help? Why didn't she call anyone? Her repeated answer, "I was afraid for my pigs. They were all I had." The investigation ended after months of searching. Robert and Steve's remains were found. The police did not confirm any other victims despite suspicions. But inside the barn, there were piles of shoes, clothes, watches, items that didn't belong to Robert or Steve. Later testimonies from a prisoner named Jordan who shared a cell with Susan, said she heard Susan laughing and saying, "My pigs ate more than 2, but 2 is enough for the court." Was she joking? Or confessing? Susan is now serving a life sentence. She showed no remorse, didn't cry, didn't ask for forgiveness, and whenever asked about Robert or Steve, she calmly replies, "They decided to work for me, and I decided how they end." In a forgotten farm, among wood, metal, and wild pets, a woman fed her pigs with humans, and with her vanished whatever was left of mercy. After the cell door slammed shut behind Susan, widely known as the pig caretaker, most believed the nightmare was over. The farm was silent once again, but the truth is, the real story began after her arrest. During a routine search in the basement of the farmhouse, investigators uncovered something unexpected. An old, mold-stained journal, wrapped in rotting cloth and hidden inside a pig's feeding trough. The pages were handwritten, filled with disturbed, rambling entries, confessions that never made it into the official case files. On one page, she wrote, "Everyone who entered the farm and never left found eternal peace. No one ever went hungry, not even my pigs." What came next was even more disturbing. At the forensics lab, while examining the waste and remains inside the pig pens, scientists discovered traces of human DNA in the remains of at least 7 pigs. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation, prompting authorities to reopen 13 missing persons cases from the past 10 years in the area. As the media exploded with headlines about the woman who fed people to pigs, the police received a strange phone call. A hoarse, trembling voice simply said, "I hid what she asked me to, for years. If she goes down, we all go down." Then the line went dead. When they traced the call, they found the phone burned and buried in a shallow pit near the edge of the woods, no sign of the caller. At the same time, Susan's adopted son mysteriously vanished. Neighbors reported seeing him leave the farm at dawn, dragging a black duffel bag behind him. He was never seen again. One neighbor noted the look in his eyes, like he knew something too dark to speak aloud. The horror didn't end there. In a dilapidated, unused barn on the property, investigators found strange symbols scratched into the wooden walls. Melted black candles, bones arranged in circles. Experts linked the symbols to an obscure cult that believed in offering human souls to animals in spiritual rituals. Had Susan been a believer, or was it all just a mask for something far more sinister? But the most unforgettable moment came in the courtroom. As the sentence was about to be delivered, Susan looked directly at the cameras and smiled. When the judge asked if she had any final words, she said calmly, "I was only feeding them. The rest, ask the pigs." This is Susie's story, the sick old woman who sold her last human feelings to her pigs. And this is what happened in this video. I hope that if you like this video, you can support us with a like or subscription. And if not, then I promise you that I will develop this content when I get the necessary capabilities. With you was William, the voice actor from the channel X.Stories. See you next time, inshallah.